Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Debbie Pates. We'll get started in a minute. If you have a block or strap, maybe grab that for today's practice, and I'll see you on the mat in a moment. All right, it is noon right now. So why don't we do some yoga? My name is Dr. Debbie Pates. I am a psychologist at the Wellness Center at UCCS, and I'm also a registered yoga teacher. This is a joint venture offered by the Wellness Center and the Galleries of Contemporary Arts. Hopefully someday we will be back there practicing together. And in the meantime, we're still trying to keep on schedule doing some yoga. You might get an email if you're part of the UC. I am going to be, I believe, on Monday the 15th. If Monday is the 15th of February, it's definitely, I think it is Monday the 15th. I'm going to be doing a 45-minute yoga practice through the Staff Association. I probably should have double checked all this information because now I'm doubting everything I'm saying to you, but it is 45 minutes and it is through the Staff Association. And if you're interested in knowing more about it and you haven't gotten an email about it, then shoot me a chat, and that's enough announcements. Let's do some yoga. Child's pose. Put your head on the mat. Put your head on the mat, and if it's hard to put your head on the mat, put your head on a block. And let your brain rest. And maybe your knees are together, maybe your knees are wide, maybe your hands are by your sides. That's especially nice. It's also a position called Bija pose, seed position, or restorative child's pose, that your knees are together, your forehead's on the mat, and your arms are your body, palms facing up. And you're really, if you're in that shape, you're rounding, really rounding your back. And almost a little cave where you can feel your breath close and notice the breath coming in and out. Don't worry too hard about where your butt is, right? We can ruin our own yoga practice by needing, wanting, having this sort of craving for it to look a certain way, or for it to feel a certain way. We can judge ourselves based on the shapes of our bodies. I used to judge myself a lot in my yoga practice, and I remember I was in a class one time with a master teacher, and he was talking about some people. I could actually do this position with you later today, but he was talking about some people can't do this shape due to their bone structure, and that was so freeing for me, right? That it's not that I'm not doing the shape because my hips are too tight or because I'm a bad person, right? Isn't there that weird connection we make? I'm not a good person because I bone structure, and how can you be mad at your bone structure? I mean, I guess you can, but that didn't resonate with me. It's just my bone structure. That's why I can't do it. And that can be very freeing, so just let your body be the shape it is, be in the shape that it is, be the weight, the height, this is your body, and being mean to it Doesn't change anything. It doesn't mean you have to be happy with what it is, but being mean to yourself about it, if it's something you can change, that doesn't help you change. It just makes you feel bad. So, your body to be, your butt to be as high off your heels as it needs to be based on where your body is. And breathe, creating this space in between what you were doing before you got on your mat and what you're going to do after, and allowing your here. And allowing this practice to be a practice of breath and of presence. And so when you find yourself, your mind drifting off to the thing you did yesterday, the thing you need to do later, just come back. And I'll try to remind you throughout the practice, just come back. And one of the ways that you can stay grounded through the practice is by really focusing on your body in the poses, right? The physical cues. And that's actually a little yoga teacher trick to keep you grounded, is if you're thinking about your hands on the mat, you're not thinking about all those other things. So let's incorporate a little bit of that in. If your arms are alongside your body, reach your arms out in front of you so that you're in an extended child's pose. And it doesn't matter if your knees are together or wide. Feel your palms pushing into the ground. Tuck your toes. Lift your knees. Come on into downward facing dog. And take some movements, pedaling out your heels if you want to, or shifting around a little bit, but make the movements, if you can, have the movements be the fidgeting that leads to stillness. So you're getting out what you need to in order to find stillness in downward facing dog. In traditional yoga, like the monks in the Hindu tradition, yoga was the getting out the wiggles in order to sit in meditation. So we'll play with that, right? We'll play with, find the shape, find the position, wiggle to get yourself into the shape, and then try to find stillness. So if you haven't yet, in downward facing dog, come to stillness. And let the breath be what continues the vinyasa, the movement. Vinyasa means moving with breath. Vinyasa also means placing with care. Placing with care. So as we move through our practice, also thinking about the transitions as part of your practice. Part of yoga isn't just being in down dog, warrior one. It's getting there. Moving carefully, honoring ourselves, honoring our bodies. Bunch of baby steps. Walk to the top of your mat to hanging ragdoll. Maybe you allow your heels to come toward the earth as you walk. You might need to come up onto your fingertips. Oh man, my cat is going bananas with like the window pull. I don't know if you guys can hear all that noise. It's pretty noisy here. Hanging in ragdoll, maybe bending your knees. A lot of us feel like we should straighten our knees in this position. And you can straighten your knees, maybe, if that works for your body. But maybe you soften your knees a little bit. And you might even notice if you soften your knees, that actually helps open up your hamstrings a little bit more. So if you want, if you can, maybe play with straighten your knees, soften your knees, and notice where that hits different parts of your physical self. Keep the breath flowing, coming up from the earth, through your feet, up your legs, and then over your spine, cascading down like a waterfall, helping the breath, exhales, soften you, maybe even your head gets a little bit closer to the ground. And then before we hang here and get too dizzy when we stand up, slowly round up. No need to be in a hurry. Maybe even trying to articulate each vertebra as you round up. up. Letting your head come up last. Chin stays on your chest. Roll your shoulders up and down in the back, and then you lift your head up, and maybe lift your gaze up to the ceiling or the sky, and lift your arms up. Grab your left wrist with your right hand and pull over. You can also interlace your hands and let your pointer fingers steeple out, or you can have your right hand on your right leg for support. Pushing out through your left hip, reaching through your left fingertips. So your left hip and your left fingertips are moving away from each other in whichever hand position you have here. And then come on back up and separate your arms and open your elbows up. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Lift your chest, beginning a heart opening, a back bend here. Inhale, your arms back up. Left wrist grabs right. Left hand grabs right wrist, or whatever other version you took there, and pull your right hand to the left side as you push your right hip out, creating an arc. In Bikram yoga, they call this half moon. Right? So I don't call it half moon because I am in more of a vinyasa tradition, but thinking about that half moon shape, that it's really more like a crescent moon, isn't it, I guess. And then come on back up and once again, separate your hands, squeeze your shoulder blades together, open up your heart, really squeeze, really lift, so that actually take your hands and place them on your rib cage lightly and lift up a little bit, guiding your rib cage up so that you're creating space in your low back. You're not just crunching into your low back, but you're really trying to let this movement come from your mid to upper back. So it's not big. You're not going to be going far. And then take your hands off your rib cage. Have your feet about hip width distance or maybe a little wider. Clasp your hands behind your back. Soften your knees, and with a flat back, dive forward, letting your hands come off your back into a forward fold, stretching your shoulders. You can, once again, let's do this. Let's do some movement to come to stillness. So bend your left knee and look up over your right shoulder. Pull your hands to the right. And then come on back center, bend your right knee. Pull your hands to the left. Keep breathing, let it feel good. And then come to the middle. And just rest, a breath. Just a breath or so here, but find stillness. And then release your hands. Bring your hands to the floor or to your shins and lengthen your spine. Halfway lift. Exhale. Forward fold. And then sweep your arms up and rise up to the top of your hand. To rise up to standing, bring your hands together and pull your hands into your heart. So one of the things we're going to do in this practice, stand here with your hands in your heart. Maybe even close your eyes. And take stock of your body. Just do a little bit of a scan. I'll guide you through it. One of the things I want to do in this practice is take it down. It's going to be a lot of the same poses, but a little bit more chill. Because one of the things about a yoga practice is that it needs to be sustainable. So there's absolutely a space for, bam, the arm balances, the hard stuff, the fun stuff, and I'll throw in an arm balance here. We'll do crow. But also having a practice that when you're feeling a little lower energy, you know you can still come to your mat and have that consistency. So take stock of where you are right now. Notice what's going on in your head. Both thoughts, but also, does it feel spacious? Do you have a headache? Is there tightness? Is there something you can loosen, your jaw? Maybe. And then down your neck, your shoulders. We won't spend a whole ton of time. How are your arms, your chest, your back, upper, middle, lower back, stomach, your hips, your buttock, your legs, knees, thighs, shins, feet. Just noticing, is there anything that feels loose, that feels painful? And working with that rather than against it. And then come to the top of your space. And inhale your arms up. And then dive forward, maybe knees a little bit soft, forward fold, and then come to a halfway lift. You can always make this practice harder at any time. Forward fold, put your hands down, and step back, high plank. So options here, you can drop your knees to the ground in high plank and take away some of the intensity of the pose, and then shift forward, knees on or off the ground, and lower all the way to the floor. Now let's start with some back bending. Cobra, inhale up, and then exhale, back down, chin or forehead to the mat. Inhale, back up. Do you want weight in your hands? Do you want to be pushing into your hands? Come on back down. Inhale, back up. Maybe you want to hover your hands and really feel your low back working here, your whole back working. Let's work the whole back side of our body. Bring your chest down again, your chin or your forehead on the mat. Straighten out your hands behind you, palms facing down. This is called Locus pose, Shalabhasana. On an inhale, lift everything. Lift your arms, lift your feet, lift your chest. But not as high as you can, unless that's what feels good to you today. Just as high as what feels good. We're a little bit warm, but not much. Right? So look for length maybe. You're reaching your feet out behind you, and you're reaching the crown of your head forward, and you're really sending energy through your fingertips, and then put it down. Put your hands underneath your shoulders, but push back. Take an extended child's pose, and from extended child's pose, tuck your toes, lift your knees off the ground. Come on into downward facing dog. And then come to the top of your mat. Bunch of steps or hopping, halfway lift, lengthen. Exhale, forward fold, and sweep up. Rise up to the top of your space. Rise up to standing. Bring your hands overhead. Bring your hands together and bring your hands into your heart. Inhale your arms back up. As if you're moving through gel or water. Dive forward so you don't need to be in a hurry. Be curious about what slowing down feels like. Lengthen. Lengthen and unfurl your spine. Keep your head neutral, right? Your neck is part of your spine, so you're looking down. And then forward fold, plant your hands, step back, high plank, knees on the floor if you want, or not, lower down. Chaturanga this time, or Cobra. Come to upward facing dog. And downward facing dog. So you can always do that move where you drop your knees and go back into child's pose and then come to downward dog that way. That's a move from a style of yoga that I can't remember the name of. I can remember the people who did it. It's David Life and Sharon Gannon, but I don't remember the Jiva Mukti. So that's from Jiva Mukti. Rock forward. We'll practice it. Do Chaturanga. Do upward facing dog. And then from up dog, put your knees down. And shift back into child's pose. Tuck your toes. Lift your hips. Downward facing dog. Alright, so experimenting with gentler ways to still have consistency within the practice, which doesn't mean not doing the poses. It doesn't mean not doing a practice. Look in between your hands and make your way to the top of your space. Lengthen up halfway. Forward fold. And then sweep your arms up. Rise with a flat back. Bring your hands together over your head. And pull your energy into your heart. Inhale your arms up. And this time sink into chair, Katasana. So have your knees either together and your feet are together,
or have your feet parallel and your knees parallel. Have your arms in a position that works for you. And I don't know what that's going to be. So you want to be able to be in this shape. And again, a sustainable version, or take it as hard as you want today, right? But maybe play with. You don't have to go, just because you can bend your knees all the way down like that, you don't have to. Maybe you don't want to go that far today, or maybe you do. Just because you can have your biceps by your ears doesn't mean that's right for you today. Maybe you want to bring your hands into your heart. And actually from wherever your hands are, if they're not in by your heart, bring your hands into your heart and send your right hand behind you and your left arm in front of you, taking a gentle twist in chair here. Maybe look back at your right hand if you can, trying to glance at your right thumb, and then bring both hands back up. Stand up for a moment, hook your thumbs on, straighten your legs, give your thighs a break, hook your thumbs, and bring your biceps, stand up straight. And you're not trying to do a back bend right now. If you can do this, bring your biceps by your ears or as close to behind your ears as possible. And then pull your thumbs up. You're creating space like in your armpits. And then start tracing, pulling your hands back, look up, and again, squeeze your shoulder blades together, lift out of your low back. You're trying to open in your upper and mid back. And then come on back, Katasana, left hand behind you, right hand in front of you. Try to keep you're twisting your upper body. Try to keep your torso and your knees facing forward. Maybe staying here, maybe standing up a drop, maybe sinking down a little lower. Come on back up, Katasana chair. And then dive forward, straighten your legs. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, fold. Put your hands down and step back. High plank, knees on or off the ground and lower. Inhale is a lifting of your heart, pulling your shoulders back, almost trying to drag your body forward. Your shoulders go back and you're trying to drag your body forward. And then through child's pose or lift your hips down facing dog, however you want to get there. And lift your right leg up. Bend your knee. Open your hip. And check in, right? One of the things I love about doing similar movements from one practice to another is it really, if you're willing to listen, gives you a chance to see where your body is today. Bring your right leg back up and look in between your hands and step your foot all the way through. Put your right foot by your right hand. Try to get your knee and your heel in line with each other. So if you need to shove your foot up, do that. And then drop your left knee. Again, a sustainable practice, but you don't have to drop your left knee if you don't want. If you did, untuck your left toes and rise up. Here's what in a vinyasa tradition we call Crescent Moon. Very nice hip opener. If you sink into your right knee, you really can feel the front of your left leg, that hip flexor opening up here. Remember to breathe. Let your breath keep you grounded in this moment. Put your hands down, one on either side. Well, we're not quite on either side of your right foot. A little bit in between your right foot and your left knee, and shift back. Half splits. Hanumanasana. Straighten your right knee as best as you can. Flex your right foot. And then if you can, so we're always looking for length. If you can, walk your hands toward your foot. Maybe you can get to your foot. Maybe you can get beyond your foot. Maybe you can barely move your hands at all. But again, don't judge yourself by what this shape looks like when you get there. Just put in the effort and be present with what's showing up. And if you're doing your best, what else can you do? What more can we do than our best? Shift forward so you're back in a low lunge with your left knee on the ground, and then rise up with your torso. Your left knee still on the ground. Bring your hands together overhead. Bring your hands into your heart and twist. Left elbow to the outside of your right knee. So if you want to tuck your back toes and lift your back knee, or if you even want to stay on the top of your toes and lift your back knee, you can do that. But maybe you allow yourself to just be in this twist with your back knee on the ground. And when your knee is on the ground, you actually can work the twist a little bit more. So you're still doing all those checks I always talk you guys through, pushing your knee into your elbow, pushing your elbow into your knee, top hand into bottom hand, trying to get your chest to the side. And then unwind. And again, it's early in the practice for this. Runner's lunge. Bring your hands to the inside of your right foot. Toe heel your right toes a little bit up to the top of the mat, toward the top right corner of your mat, and sink in. Breathe. You can, if you want, you can come onto the pinky edge of your right foot, and you can even place your hand, not on your knee, please, but on your inner thigh, and just gently kind of coax open your right thigh while you open up your chest. But, right? Be mindful of your back. You don't want to be tweaking your back. You don't want to be feeling this in your low back. If it feels okay, then sure, do it. And if not, don't. Maybe you just want to stay down low, opening in the hip. And then wherever you are, come on back to a neutral position and step your right knee back to meet your left knee so that you're on hands and knees. And move through a couple of cat-cows. Kind of using this as a reset, a little windshield wiper of the right side of your body in that interesting, different kind of sun bee flow. And then we will move on to the other side. So make your way into a downward facing dog, however you want to get there. And from downward facing dog, lift your left leg up. Bend the knee, make circles or not. Noticing how this side of your body is showing up today. Noticing how this movement feels on maybe your wrists, on your shoulders, on your hips, wherever you feel it. And then bring your leg through. Heel underneath your knee, drop your right knee, untuck your right toes, and come to Crescent Lunge, Crescent Moon. So the difference really between Crescent Moon and Crescent Lunge is knee on or off the ground. There's still some similarities. Sink into your left knee, maybe biceps by your ears, maybe your arms are reaching up, or maybe your hands are somewhere else that feels good to you right now. Letting this practice be an exploration. Right? Every practice really ought to be an exploration. Bring your hands down somewhere in between your left foot and your right knee and shift back. Half splits, Ardha Hanumanasana. Walk your hands as close to your right foot as possible, maybe even past it, which would have to do with the length of your hamstrings, the length of your arms, maybe the length of your legs in general, right? But don't judge yourself. It has nothing to do with what kind of person you are, right? You're not going to be judged eternally by how close your feet are to your foot, your hands are to your foot. Your feet are always pretty close to your foot. Funny how that works. Come on back into Crescent Moon. Reach your arms up. Bring your hands together. And let's turn this into a twist. Right elbow to the outside of your left knee. And again, if you would like to, tuck your toes and lift your back knee, or keep your toes as they are and lift your back knee, you could give it a try. Or you can give a try just keeping your knee on the ground and being okay with that. Being okay with
not needing to go as hard as you possibly can every single time. And then unwind and come into runner's lunge. Right, hands on the inside of your left foot, bringing your left foot up toward the top of the mat. And again, if you want to just sink down, go ahead and just get juicy with it. Otherwise, maybe you want to experiment with, you'd be more up on your right hand on this side and coming to the knife edge, the pinky edge of your left foot and rolling open. You're pushing on your thigh. You don't want to be putting pressure on your knee in a direction your knee is not actually supposed to bend. All right, which is partly why you're coming up. You want to try to not sickle your ankle there, but keep it as if it's a lever. Opening up your heart and your chest to the left side. And then come on back. Bring your left knee to meet your right knee. And this time reach your right arm out in front of you, left arm behind you. Bend your left knee. Did I say left arm behind you? Right arm in front of you, left leg behind you. Bend your left knee. Reach back and grab your right foot. Your left foot with your right hand. Oh my goodness. And kick. Let the kick open up your shoulder. Not going to be there that long. Release. Reach out in front of you and put your hand down, put your knee down, and just switch sides. Reach your right leg behind you. Reach your left arm out in front of you. Bend your right knee. Reach back with your left hand. Grab your foot and kick so that you're opening up your shoulder, maybe getting more stretch through your leg, maybe getting some opening in your arm, and you're certainly working strength here too. And then release, arm out in front of you, leg out behind you. Just drop your right leg back behind you straight. Bring your left leg to meet it so that you're in high plank. Chaturanga, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Drop your forearms to the mat. So we're in dolphin, and I know I said this is going to be a sustainable practice, a more gentle practice. So can you, if you're in dolphin and your feet are further out behind you, that makes this shape easier to be in. If you want to make it harder, walk your feet toward your elbows and shift so that your shoulders are more over your elbows. But if you're doing that, ask yourself why. Why do you need it to be harder today? And if you can come up with a good answer, then awesome, do it. If you want to take the forearm balance here, go on. But maybe you just hang out, working some shoulder strength without needing to push it too hard. How's your breath? Are you still breathing deeply? And then push into your hands, lift your elbows up. Find downward facing dog if you need to readjust your hand or foot position here. And then look in between your hands and make your way to the top of your space. Walking, jumping, big steps. Bring your big toes into touch. Halfway lift, lengthen. Exhale, forward fold. Bend your knees. Knees and toes are touching. And come on up. What do you call this guy again? Oh my goodness. Katasana, chair pose. Wow, that's weird. Forgot that word. Bring your hands to your heart. This is why I wanted your knees to be together. Because when we do the twist, sink down low this time. Try to get your elbows as close to your knees as you can, and then twist. Bring your right elbow to the outside of your left thigh. So for me, I can't twist as deeply as I like to ultimately be. So I take my right hand and I put it on my right thigh, and I just use it for a little bit of leverage there so I can get my left elbow a little bit deeper. Twisting and rinsing. And then release. Forward fold, separate your feet. And let's do gorilla. But what I want to do to get into gorilla is bend your knees so much that your chest is on your
Your chest, your thighs, and your stomach are all one here. And then hands slide under your feet, palms facing up, or you can grab onto your big toes. Shake out your head and begin to get juicy. So does that mean you want to just stay here, right? Maybe just staying here. Staying here and letting the blood flow to your head. This is an inversion. It's not a very dramatic inversion, but any inversion means your head is lower than your heart. So technically downward facing dog is also an inversion. It doesn't have to be a headstand or a handstand. Those are fun. Oops. And then release your hands from underneath your feet. Bring your big toes and your heels back into touch. Come on up all the way. Come all the way up to standing. Let's take a break. Lift your hands up overhead and then sink into chair. Bring your hands to your heart and turn to your left, turn to your left, turn to your left, and then twist. Maybe you put your left hand on your left thigh so that you can hook your right elbow a little bit more deeply if you want, if that feels like something that would be nice to you. You can also try it and then decide you don't want to do it. And then release. Forward, not quite forward fold. Toe heel your feet out, almost as wide as your mat. Toes can be facing out. And let's come on into a yogic squat. So here's where we're going to play with crow. And I'm going to give you a couple of options. So first of all, in yogic squat, don't do what I'm doing if you can go lower. I can't go lower. I know I always say this, but I feel like I need to say it every time. This is how my body's built. I'm not one of those people that can sink my butt all the way down. Maybe if I tried it every single day and really worked on it, but it just doesn't feel like my body is built that way. But I've seen some people who have no problem keeping their heels on the ground and they're lifting their chest and their butt is really low. So awesome. So if you're comfortable and you want to stay here, it's a beautiful hip opener, then do so. If you want to move into, you can also actually make it harder and make it a thigh burner if you on purpose come up. But try to keep your, so you'd come up about, your thighs are less than parallel, or maybe parallel, come up about halfway. And try to keep your torso lifted, or we'll play around a little bit with crow. So if you know crow, go ahead. If you don't want to do crow, do something else. You can always take child's pose and skip all this. Remember, you don't have to work as hard as you can to get the practice, but I want you to do is be present with your breath and be present in your body. So with crow, knees on the outsides of your knees on the outsides of your arms. You shift forward, your hands are in about Chaturanga position. Shift the weight, maybe you play with one foot up, the other foot up. If you're feeling really peppy today in this gentle practice and you want to really go for it, you can play with one-legged crow. So shift your weight into your left hand, and your left leg, and then you take your right leg off your right hand and straighten it behind you. I don't know if you guys were looking, I managed that for 1 second, and then if you try one side, you gotta try the other side. I'm very distracted, I should say, by my plant today, which is hitting me. I think it grew. And then wherever you are, drop your knees to the ground. Come on back to, if you're in the squat, bring your knees center, drop your knees to the ground, and keep your toes tucked. Toes pose, stretching out the ligaments. Bring your hands to your heart, maybe close your eyes and just breathe and allow yourself to be in this shape without panicking. And if you can't be in it without panicking, then get out of it. That's not the point of yoga. The point of yoga is to try to put yourself into these shapes and stay calm. I know that for a lot of us, this one is a tricky one to stay calm Let's do a wrist stretch. So turn your hands up and then put your hands on the ground in front of you with your fingers facing your knees. Untuck your toes. Come onto the tops of your toes, your toenails. And then, so from kind of a hands and knees position, let your wrists dictate this for you. Begin to shift your hips back, keeping the palms of your hand, the heels of your hand on the ground. So stretching the insides of your wrists. This is a very good counter pose for all the positions, the things we do that cause carpal tunnel, but it also can be pretty intense. So that's where I say you don't know how far you're going to go back until you listen to your wrists and what they say that they're okay with you doing. And then sit up, just sit back onto your heels, your hips on your heels, and roll your wrists around a couple of times, maybe wiggle your fingers a bit. And then separate your feet wider than your hips, Virasana, hero's pose. So if you have a block, you might want to sit on your block here if your butt doesn't go to the ground in between your heels. If you are comfortable moving back, laying on the ground, coming halfway down, do so. But again, it's not about how far you get. It's about listening to your body, checking in, seeing if this is right for you today in this space. And you breathe, and you move away as best as you can from judgment, right? Maybe that's the whole point of a yoga practice, is to notice judgment of self, judgment of others, judgment of our breath, of our bone structure, and recognizing that it doesn't really serve us. We are where we are anyway. If you are on your back, come on up. Hands and knees. And tuck your toes and just come on up to standing. Doesn't need to be super elegant. And let's do a little bit of balancing. Come to the top of your mat. And if you have a block, you might want to grab your block. We're gonna, Okay, so stand at the top of your mat. And if you're using a block, which we're gonna do to move into half moon, vinyasa style half moon, have the block somewhere on the right, top right edge of your mat here. And simply stand up in Tadasana, mountain pose, arms, shoulders are open, shoulders are rolled up, back, and down in your palms, open to the front, kneecaps lift, quads engage, shift your weight into your right foot and begin to move into airplane. So your arms, maybe even lift your arms a little bit up behind you, engaging your triceps, moving your arms off your back as you shift forward, trying to keep your leg and your torso in a straight line with each other so that you don't come down further than your leg. You're hinging on your right, top of your right leg there, your right hip, I guess. And have humility. It doesn't matter how far you go. It isn't about that. Just experimenting maybe with not going as far as you can. And then bring your hands into your heart. And now bring your torso more even to the ground if it wasn't, as your left leg continues to come up. And then open your right leg, right arm toward the ground, and your left leg up. So your right hand comes down, maybe on your block. You move into Ardha Chandrasana, half moon. So in Sanskrit, the language of yoga, Ardha means half. So Ardha Chandrasana is half moon. Ardha Hanumanasana is half splits. Trying to have your torso parallel to the ground, your leg parallel to the ground. And then keep your left leg up. Bring your torso down. Both hands on the ground. You're in half splits. And then drop your left leg back onto the floor. And first, let's come into pyramid pose. So shift your weight back so that you're in more or less, you're not in a super long stance. You're not in like a warrior stance. Shift your weight back. You're forward folding over your right shin here. Breathing. And if you want, you can move into a twisting triangle. So you would bring your left hand, try to come to a flat back block on the outside of your right foot. Bring your left hand onto your left shin. It could be right under your left shoulder. It could be on the block under your left shoulder, or it could be on the block on the outside of your right shin. Either way, spine is long, and you lift your right arm up. And maybe you follow your gaze, but you can also choose to just stay in pyramid. You can look up at your right hand, is what I meant. But you might just stay in pyramid for today. And then, from either pyramid or twisting triangle, come on up to standing. And walk your front foot a little bit more forward. Walk your back foot out a little bit. Come into a warrior two. And find stability here. Your groin is dropping and your torso, your chest, your rib cage is lifting. Your arms are reaching away from each other. Your knee is reaching forward. Flip your right palm and reach your fingertips back and away from your right knee, creating length. Maybe your left hand comes behind your back. Maybe it slides down your right leg. And then come on back, warrior two. And then just step up, top of your mat. Same thing, other side. Have your block, if you're using it for half moon, on the left side of your block, of your mat. And first find Tadasana. So we're not in a hurry to get anywhere. We first stop and we commit to this shape, this tall stance. And then maybe while we're standing here with our arms by our sides, palms facing forward, maybe you lift your hands almost up behind you just to drop, and notice that your triceps engage, and then shift the weight to your left foot and begin to teeter-totter forward. Your torso goes down and your leg rises, and you try to keep them in line with each other, and you try to keep breathing. You definitely keep breathing. If you stop breathing, then back out of the shape until you can find the breath again. Bring your hands into your heart, and as best as you can, torso comes parallel to the ground, as does your right leg. Bring your left hand down to the block or the floor if you don't need the block. And open your body up to the side, half moon. Looking for length, looking for space in between the vertebra. Breathing. Doing the best that you can. Again, what else can you do? And then half splits. Just a brief moment with both hands on the ground. Bend your left knee. Step back. Shift your weight back. You're in pyramid pose. Forward fold over your left leg. Stay in pyramid or half twisting triangle. So right hand either under right shoulder, on left shin, or on the block or floor outside. Try to flatten your back if you're doing twisting triangle. Left arm up. Maybe look at your left arm. And don't judge yourself either way based on which one you picked. Don't judge yourself as lame because you didn't try twisting triangle. And don't judge yourself as great because you did. Come on back to pyramid. Come on up, stand up, and find warrior two. So you might need to widen your stance a bit. Bend your left knee. And notice how it feels. This is a lot of familiar poses, but a real, not such a different flow. But right, we don't usually come to warrior two for the first time this late in the practice. Notice how it feels. Flip your left palm and reverse. Left hand moving back as left knee stays tracking forward. Maybe your right arm comes behind your back. That feels good. Back to warrior two. Straighten your left knee, and step up top of your mat. Let's do a tree. Let's do a tree pose. So bring, you pick which side. Ground into maybe your left foot. That's the way I usually do left foot anyway. And bring your right foot up. Maybe all the way up onto your thigh, maybe in your hip crease, but maybe just onto your ankle. Maybe today you even keep your toes on the ground. Wherever you are, lift up out of your left hip. You can keep your hands by your heart, or you can take a different version, a different arm position. And then release and simply shift sides. Trees sway in the breeze. It's pretty windy over by my house. Don't forget we got that windmill project up in the open space by Pulpit Rock, kind of west of the Heller Center, north of West Campus. Anyway, and it's windy and it's really neat to go check that out in the wind. And then release. And so, you know what? Let's do it super easy. Inhale your arms up. And dive forward, forward, fold. Halfway lift, come up. Fold. Put your hands on the ground. And we're going to come to pigeon. Step your left foot back. And maybe you put your hands down and just position your right knee. Come on into pigeon. Maybe just put your right knee behind your right wrist. And then sink down. Sink into pigeon. Just a few breaths here because we're going to do a different hip opener as well. And then come on up. And shift over onto your right hip. We're going to come into double pigeon, sometimes also known as fire log in yin yoga. Bring your right leg in front, left leg in front of you. But what you want to do is you want to have your right knee bent and your leg coming straight out of your hip in front of you. Okay, so as if you were going to straighten your both legs straight out. And then with your left leg also in straight out like that, bend your left knee. You want to have your shin kind of parallel to the top of your mat, and stack your left ankle on top of your right knee. So that you want to have your shins kind of parallel to each other, stacked on top of each other, parallel to the top of your mat. Now, again, if you're looking at the screen, you'll see my left knee is way high up off of my right ankle. This is the shape I was telling you that Paul Grilly, who is a pretty well-known yin yoga guy, he would say, he's the one that said, if you can't, some people can be really super flat, and maybe you're one of those people.
And it has to do, according to him, with the shape of your hips, with the shape of your bones. So what a nice gift to not say, oh, my hips are tight, oh this, oh that person's better than me, blah blah blah. But like, whatever, it's my skeleton. I can't be mad at my skeleton. But you're still, wherever you are, you're still working on opening your hips. You're still getting the benefits. Hopefully I didn't blab too much. If you're not feeling anything here, you can bow forward. But for time, let's move on. So let's do pigeon, other side. So keep your left knee bent and swing your right leg behind you. Come into pigeon with your left knee in front of you. And just again, a few breaths here, and then we'll shift and we'll move into double pigeon on the other side. But don't rush through pigeon. Instead of saying, I know it's only a few breaths, let me not rush into it. Rather, the opposite. Just dive right into it. Just, oh, pigeon, yeah, let me get it while I can. Everything is over too soon. Maybe even life. Get it while you can. We have no guarantees. So sit up. Shift over onto your left hip. Have your left thigh coming straight out. Bring your left shin parallel to the top of your mat, and then stack your right ankle on top of your left knee. And of course, because no sides of the body are the same, this is going to be a different experience than the other side of your body. And part of the reason I had the strap is because I wanted to do an arm position with this, which I forgot. Rats. Anyway, next time. And you can, if you want, sort of similar to what we did, or what I offered you as a choice in runner's lunge, you can gently, with your right hand, coax open your right thigh, not knee. But you might not need that. This might be so intense already. And then release, just bring the soles of your feet together. And you choose how far in or out you want your feet to be. And place your hands on the outsides of your feet and bow forward. However far your feet are, however close your feet are, in or out, whatever, you want to be bowing forward and still trying to get the crown of your head beyond your feet. So always going for length. And if you want to drop your chin to your chest and get some roundness in your upper back, stretching your neck, go right ahead, of course. And then sit back up. Straighten out your legs. Actually, spread your legs out wide, and let's do a straddle. So if you want, you can grab your strap here, and we'll do a little side-to-side thing, but don't waste any time. Just walk straight down the middle here. Spreading your legs as wide as feels good to you today. So that might mean as wide as you can. Maybe it means just as wide as feels good. Sometimes for me, they're the same thing, which doesn't look very impressive if you're looking at me. But again, this is what my body does. Walk over to the left side. Keep your right hip on the ground. So if you have your strap, you could maybe loop your strap over your left foot here and use that to help lengthen. You don't need to. There's no real destination except just getting length and movement. Walk down the middle. Over your right side. Keeping weight in your left hip. Breathe. Shifting energy, moving your body. And then sit up, bring your legs together and roll down onto your back, hug your knees in. Keep your right knee in, let your left leg go long on the ground, spinal twist. Left arm can guide your right knee over, tee out your right arm. Breathing into your spine, into your low back. Run back up.
both knees in, and then send your right leg down. Guide your left knee across to the right side. Appreciating your body for everything that it can do, for all that it does for you every day. Come back up. And Shavasana, final resting pose. Lay on your back and let it go, and take stock of how it feels to do a lot of the same familiar postures, the same familiar shapes, but maybe with a kind of different intention almost, an intention to be curious and gentle, rather than an intention to bam, 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 get the most out of the practice. And we can do, I know, oh darn it, I forgot to put the survey up again. I'll put that in the chat later, but a couple people requested an advanced class. Maybe you play with arm balances or play with a really strong practice, but it's not sustainable to do that every time. Bring movement back into your body. Make your way to a seated position. And as you do all of that, you don't have to do it as quickly as I said it. Come to a space of gratitude. Maybe close your eyes. And perhaps start with gratitude for your body. Perhaps, if you love warm weather like me, gratitude for this beautiful, unexpectedly warm January day. And if you prefer snow in the winter, gratitude that everything changes and that we have this amazing ability, if we let ourselves, to be present and aware and awake for all of those changes and for the new opportunities that they offer. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you again virtually. I don't actually see any of you next week on your mat, and I will have a little more accurate information about the Staff Association Yoga. Thank you so much. Namaste.